Hello, and welcome to Let Me Tell You a Story podcast, produced by ED Media. Today's story is from the best-selling novel, Journey to the Kingdom of Soul, written by author Everlazt. Chapter 15. Nightfall blanketed the city with a cool air breeze. Preparations had been worked out days in advance, and only a few elitist and high-ranking members of the brigade knew of the details. The move was too important to be broadcasted in the city. With the agreed-upon routes of travel being very sensitive, having the traditional royal sending off in the Brook was not possible this time around. Tonight things were designed to be different as a small group gathered in the royal barn for their final goodbyes. "I'm going to miss you, my little cub," Lady Light said. Sharing her last private moment with her son was heart-wrenching, but the Queen maintained her composure pretty well in front of the onlookers. She would have her moment to cry in private once she retired back to her chambers. Lady Light rubbed noses with her little one and chuckled right on cue. "Always remember that's for me and you," she cooed with a strong smile. Papa Big eased up on his wife and son. "You ready?" he asked Lady Light, putting a paw around her shoulder. She inhaled a deep breath, then let it roll out slowly. "Yes, I guess. You want to say goodbye?" Papa Big nodded, then took his son off of his wife's hands. Chris squealed in his dad's big paws, which brought a smile to the sad bear's face. "Well, Chris, this is it. Your first trip out of the Brook," Papa Big said as the onlookers stepped away to give the king a moment with his only son. "Always remember you are royalty. Nobody will ever be able to deny you your rights to this land, and if for some reason I was to lose it, I know we'll return one day to reclaim it." "What's that? How do I know that?" "Because the Brook is in your heart. This will always be with you. So embrace it, because this will always be your home," Papa Big said, staring into his son's eyes. "I love you, little Big," Papa Big told his son, then kissed him on his forehead. When he turned around, Papa Big was surprised to see everyone was waiting on him. "Oh, I'm sorry. It's time, right?" Papa Big said, putting on a brave face. "Don't worry, Papa Big. We can still make good timing," Santoya said. "Come on and give me my kisses," Lady Light said, taking her son out of his father's hands. She flooded his face with kisses, causing Chris to giggle with delight. "You be good, and I love you." She kissed him again, then took him over to Zahara. Lady Light put on a strong grin as she handed him over. "He's all yours." "Don't worry, Lady Light. I will do as you asked," Zahara said with a comforting look in her eyes. "I know you will," Lady Light said. Then she hugged Zahara and Chris, sending a surge of energy flowing through the three of them. When Lady Light stepped back, Zahara saw a tear in the corner of the Queen's eye, but it would not fall. "Zahara, thank you. And may the gods of song bless you." Zahara nodded, then handed Chris over to Nalani. "Come on, little one." Nalani slipped the toddler into the carrier Zahara wore on her back. Then they helped the young queen onto her horse. Horses were provided for everyone in the traveling procession, except Prince Stephen, who was to ride with Gond. Zahara felt more at ease knowing her brother had an experienced rider guiding him to the Kingdom of Soul, than Stephen being out on his own. They wanted to keep the group small, so only a few more travelers were added to the procession at Papa Big's request. Santoya was labeled Chris's aunt, and if anything was to happen to Zahara, Santoya would step up in her absence. Santoya served the king and queen of the Brook long enough to know any history Chris would need to know as he gets older. Santoya had her own personal love for the baby she helped deliver into this world, making Lady Light and Papa Big's request to join the travelers a welcoming one. The three Kelowna warriors were good security, but Papa Big needed to add two of his trusted men to the journey, to put his mind more at ease. Papa Big was a nervous wreck about his son leaving the nest for the first time without him and his mother. So no one was going to protest about being sent out on a mission of such importance. Papa Big selected one of the Brook's best swordsmen by name Grant. His skin was as dark as the night and he wore a thick head full of long locks. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches tall, Grant was an intimidating-looking man when you also weighed in his 210-pound frame. Grant was a man who mixed his size and gift with a blade well on the battlefield, and was always rewarded for his achievements defending his homeland. Red Ryan was also selected by Papa Big to travel to the Kingdom of Soul. A skilled archer who lacked the big size of his partner Grant. Red Ryan only weighed 175 pounds and stood at 5 feet 9 inches tall, but made up for it on the battlefield with his accurate shooting and cunning movements through the forest. Many believe the brown-skinned man was given the name Red because of his red hair. That was until seeing him in the annual shootout held in the Brook. That is when Red Ryan really showcases his skills and shoots a red apple off of the head of someone standing 2,000 feet away. Papa Big hugged Lady Light, and they watched as a group of 10 were escorted out of the barn and headed for the front gate. The portcullis was raised, giving the group a clear pathway. Grant and Tusi lead the way, with Gond and Stephen right behind them. Sahara, Nilani, and Santoya were the middle core of the group, with Red Ryan and Dan bringing up the rear. The full moon provided a nice silhouette for the beginning of their journey, but Grant knew once they reached the eastern part of the forest and its tall trees, the only line of light that was going to be helpful to the group was the torchlight he carried guiding them. He led the way out of the brook as the front gate lowered. Chapter 16. Lil Kay hid out in Corey's wagon for another long day, then she stepped out into the night to comb the camp for more information. It seemed like every night, by nightfall, the young children were put to bed, and the camp squatters would set up in little groups to converse amongst each other. They played a little of their homeland music, share some drink, then turn in for the night. Lil Kay mingled with a few groups, but never stuck around long enough to come under question as to who she was. She probed the ones she felt were open enough off of the drink, giving some of them the ear they needed. Talking about the everyday feel of despair that ran rampant in the camp gave Lil Kay a strong sense of everyone being tired of the current circumstances. The thing that stopped people from speaking their mind about their harsh treatment and horrible living conditions was the thick cloud of fear that floated over their heads. But she could feel it. If the right person emerged from within these troubled souls, Lil Kay felt that could be the right piece of motivation these people would need to form a coup against the Industriarmy from within. She just hadn't run into that person yet. The one person Lil Kay felt was a good candidate for the job was Corey. His words of strength and freedom, and why it would be important for them to stand up together against the force that was trying to industrialize them, would move any group of oppressed people to stand up against their oppressor. But Corey was too young and only a handful of the elders would take him seriously. Moving through the camp, Lil Kay decided to focus on finding the right person who had small influence with the women and men who weren't fully industrialized yet. This person would be a big help to her people and the Brook brigades. Especially if they could build up a minor campaign from within the camp. While the army is out attacking the Brook, Lil Kay could get the people to destroy the camp. Then possibly leave, or help us by attacking the army from behind. As the nights wore on, Lil Kay continued to move around the camp with a strong sense of freedom, which saddened her because she knew the good people she was mixing and mingling with lost their sense of freedom, and desperately wanted it back. Lil Kay maintained her composure every night, and tried to stay focused. The future of the captured souls by the Industriarmy depended on her strength. Going through the faces in her mind of the people she had come across since she has been in the camp, Lil Kay found herself thinking about the honey-complexioned singer whose voice was hypnotizing. The woman seemed to draw people to her, but she didn't leave an impression on Lil Kay strong enough that told the Duchess of the Brook she possessed that killer instinct needed to start a coup. Before Lil Kay totally disqualified the woman as a potential ally, she wanted to have a few private words with the singer. The shadows shielded Lil Kay well enough for her to make it to the singer's wagon undetected. The deep night had befallen upon the camp, with a lot of the small gatherings breaking down. 2 Industriarmy soldiers sat around a fire outside of the singer wagon with a few women. Lil Kay took note of having seen the women sitting outside with the singer under the light of the fire every night she canvassed the camp. They seemed to be having a good time, but the wrong step could alert the guards to her presence. So Lil Kay moved lightly around the group. Lil Kay got as close as she could, without sticking her face in the wagon. Then she put her ear to the canvas to listen in on what was going on inside. "So do you think he will give you the next land you invade for him?" The woman's voice was clear enough for Lil Kay to determine it was the singer speaking. "Nippily, I told you before I don't know about something like that happening, because there is no one that could lead the army in my absence. Come on, Zor, every man has to be recognized for his accomplishments." "This is true, but I don't see Timu's granting me a position like that." "How do you know, if you don't ask?" Nippily asked in a low tone. "A closed mouth don't get fed, Zor." They were quiet for a few moments, then Zor said, "You're right, Nippily. I'm going to ask Timu's about me obtaining my own land. I can start my own piece of history in the name of the gods of force." But I know he's not going to honor my request until after we capture the Kingdom of Sol. As long as you say something to him now, because you will feel passed over if you accomplish all of these for the army, and the land is given to someone like Solomon to govern, Nipali said. Zor sucked his teeth. That swine can't govern a stream of water. That incompetent fool is probably ruining Industriarmy right now as we speak. Nipali giggled. You might be right, but Timu still trusts him enough to govern the land in his absence. I don't want to talk about him anymore, Zor said. Okay, so what do you want to talk about? Nipali asked. Then her voice dropped down into a seductive tone. You want to talk about this? Lil K could hear kissing sounds. Then Nipali asked, What's wrong, you still uncomfortable? Nipali, if Timu finds out about this, I don't know how he's going to react. Zor, I told you before. Timu doesn't care about me. He's only interested in my voice. And that's enough to make any man fall in love with you. Zor said. Nipali giggled, Come on Zor, you know Timu doesn't love me. You'd be surprised by who loves you in this land, he said with a chuckle. Lil Cat thought Nipali was going to take the baited question. But she dismissed Zor and said, Are you going to come see me before the invasion? I will try, but I don't know when it will be. We still haven't received word from the committee we sent with Timu's demands. Well, I'll be here waiting for you, Nipali told him. More kissing sounds could be heard through the thin canvas walls, then the wagon rocked a little, followed by a set of footsteps heading toward the rear of the wagon. Lil K dipped underneath the wagon and watched the strong legs of Major Zor jump down out of the wagon. Let's go, she heard him say. Then Zor and his two guards hopped onto their horses and galloped toward the front of the camp. Lil K waited for a little while before she got up the nerve to move from under the wagon and slip inside of it. Nipali was laying on her thick comforter, basking in the after incandescence of spending some private time with Zor. A few candles set the tone with a warm glow. As a heavy scent of sweat lingered in the air, Lil K could tell the couple had shared an intimate moment together before she arrived. Sensing someone was watching her, Nipali opened her eyes, then sat up. What are you doing here? She asked in a soft voice. I don't mean you any harm. I would like to talk to you, Lil K said, pulling off her black hood to reveal her coca-colored baby face. Nipali wrapped a silk top across her bare top. You have watched me sing a few times, she said nonchalantly. Yes. Lil K confessed. You have a very beautiful voice. Thank you. What is your name? I'm the Duchess Lil K from the Brook. Nipali's eyes shifted. That is why I've never seen you in industry land. So why are you here? Without wasting any time, Lil K went right to the point of her sudden appearance. I was hoping to free the people from within. With your help, of course. My help? Ha, I'm no rebel, my dear Duchess. I'm a songstress. So I don't see what kind of help I can be to you, Nipali said, standing up and wrapping the rest of the silk garment around her exposed body. Your songs tell me otherwise. That's because my songs are about our freedom, and my voice is for the people. They depend on me to carry them on to the next day, Nipali said, moving over to a pitcher of water. Would you like something to drink? Yes. Thank you. Nipali poured them each a cup, then said, Come sit with me. Lil K accepted the invitation and sat down next to the songstress. Lil K, I love my deprived people of industry land. Mainly because some of them are from my homeland. But I'm no leader of them, Nipali said in soft voice. Nipali, a lot of leaders are not conscious of their powers and strength to move the people out of their state of depression, Lil K said, matching the softness in her voice as her hostess. Nipali, I've seen you sing, and I can tell from your ability to hold your audience captive that the power is in you. You can move people with your words to stand up and they will follow. Nipali stared at her cup for a long time in silence. Lil K could tell the woman was weighing the situation in her mind, and she did not want to interrupt her. Lil K remained quiet, as a steady thumping sound could be heard traveling through the sleeping camp. I don't even know how I would start what you are asking of me, Nipali said, finally breaking the silence. Lil K looked over into her eyes and said, I can help you. But why do you want to help us? Nipali asked. She was pretty sure she already knew the answer. But she wanted to hear it from the little woman's mouth. Because an uprising by the captives of this camp, While the army is attacking my land, we'll give the Industriarmy 2 battles to fight at the same time. And my leader believes that will be too much for them to handle. Nipoli slowly nodded in agreement. I see what your vision is. But I want you to remember, this camp may have a lot of people that will fight for their freedom, but there are also many who will not. Because of Timu's, Lil K said. Nipoli nodded. Yes, he has imbued a state of fear amongst the people that is the culture around here. And many will not go against the power he has over us. This I know, Lil K said. But if we motivate enough of them, I think the rest will follow. Nipoli stared into her eyes and knew the woman was serious about the words she was speaking. Lil K gave her the impression of a person who was willing to go all the way for her beliefs. Lil K, I have dreamed of separating myself from the grips of Timu's for a very long time. And many days I'm left realizing it's an impossible feat. Nipoli said. But tonight you brought in an air of possibility that I haven't felt in a long time. I know if I can trust you, then the people will trust you, so I will do it. Lil K smiled. Thank you, Nipoli. I promise you, together we can make a difference in the living conditions of the people in this camp. Nipoli looked into her eyes. Lil K, for all of our sakes, I hope you're right. Because if you're wrong, we all just signed our death sentences.
Hey everyone, it's author Everlazt. I want to thank you for listening to Let Me Tell You a Story podcast. Tune in for the next episode. God bless and be safe.